Ada Wong, the mysterious woman in red that carried Leon throughout the entire Resident Evil series.
Use this!
Ada has made her appearance through many Resident Evil games throughout the series, but in recent games she's been absent, which leaves a lot of fans, including myself, wondering where has she been. She made her first debut back in Resident Evil 2, where she went down to Raccoon City to try and obtain a sample of the virus. Along the way she meets Leon Kennedy, and they decide to team up to take out whoever was responsible for inflicting this virus on the city. Leon and Ada then head down to the sewers in hopes to find Annette Birkin, but instead they find something much worse than her.
Leon! Get out of there!
Once Leon escapes from the sewer monster, him and Ada eventually meet back up and stumble upon Annette Birkin herself. When Ada demands the G-Virus from Annette, she decides to flee while shooting at them, and Leon takes one for the team and gets shot in the arm, and then Ada runs off to find Annette Birkin. When Ada finally gets to Annette, she realizes that she fell right into Annette's trap and gets pushed down to the sewer floors. She is later then rescued by Leon, and they both decide not to give up and take a train down to the biolab. After a romantic kiss scene between the two, Leon decides to head off on his own in hopes to stop the virus. Leon later returns to Ada with a sample of the virus. When Ada tells Leon to hand her the virus, Leon confronts Ada about the real reason she is in Raccoon City, which is to retrieve a sample of the virus. When the two of them start to argue, Annette shows up and shoots Ada in the shoulder. Ada then falls to her death, or so we thought. Turns out she actually survived, and we see her again in Resident Evil 4, where she teams up with Wesker. Now in this game, Wesker sends Ada out on a mission to retrieve a Las Plagas sample from this location in Spain. Her first task upon arrival is to ring the church bell to calm the villagers down so she has time to investigate the village. She rings the church bell and starts to investigate the village. Upon investigating the village, she ends up saving Leon by distracting the big cheese.
Fight!
Unfortunately for Ada, once the chief found out that Ada was lurking around the village, she was then surrounded by a bunch of villagers and tranquilized. She then wakes up to being nearly chopped in half by one of the villagers, but luckily for her, she manages to dodge the axe and takes out all the villagers performing this ritual on her. After investigating the village and meeting up with Luis Serra, she heads to the castle to gather more intel. After a quick reunion with Leon at the castle, she is told by Wesker that if she sees Leon, she has to take him out. We then see many instances in the game where Ada sees Leon, but has to avoid confronting him so she doesn't have to kill him. So after she is done investigating the castle, she takes Leon on a boat to this remote island.
Need a ride, handsome?
Now while she is investigating this island, she saves Leon. Oh, and did I mention she saves Leon? And then she saves herself by killing Krauser.
That's a large thing you have there.
Now in all seriousness, Leon kills Sadler, and then Ada takes the sample from Leon and takes off in a helicopter. And that is the end of Resident Evil 4. Now we see her yet again in Resident Evil 6. In this game, there is a clone of Ada that is framing her and going around getting her into lots of trouble. So while this clone is framing Ada, she actually teams up with Leon and Helena in an attempt to stop a viral outbreak. So during this game, Carla and Ada meet up, and Carla wants to take her out. So she inflicts herself with a dose of the C-Virus and attacks Ada. But the C-Virus did nothing for her because she dies anyways. Ada then reaches the lab where Ada's clone was developed and destroys everything in the lab. She then receives a call from someone and accepts a new assignment. And that is the end of Resident Evil 6. And that is actually the last time we see Ada Wong in a mainline game, which means she has now been absent for 2 Resident Evil games. Now, as some of you know, she actually was originally planned to be in Resident Evil 8, but because of multiple conflicts, Capcom decided not to bring her in the game. Now this leads me to the question of why? Why was she not in the game? We know Ada's motives, right? Which are to investigate bioterrorist attacks and retrieve samples from these areas, right? So with that being said, where was she in Resident Evil 7 and 8? Starting off in Resident Evil 7, we had Evelyn show up to the baker's house, right? And infect the Baker residents with her gift, the Mutamycete. Looking at Resident Evil 8, we saw Mother Miranda trying to bring her daughter Evelyn back to life by trying to create a perfect vessel. In the process, she infected all of these villagers with the Mutamycete. So yeah, with that being said, it really confuses me on why we did not see Ada return in these 2 games. I think she would have fit perfectly in these 2 games, right? She could have been investigating this Mutamycete virus and trying to gather intel on it. Now looking back at the ending of Resident Evil 8, we saw Chris and his crew find out that the BSAA is creating bioweapons, right? So with that being said, it looks like the setup for Resident Evil 9 will be this. It'll be Chris and his crew and Rose teaming up and attacking the BSAA and taking out all the bioweapons that they have created. So with that being said, maybe we could see Ada return in Resident Evil 9, right? And she could be investigating the BSAA and gathering intel and trying to retrieve a sample of this virus. Now something I do want to mention is that every time Ada is in a Resident Evil game, Leon is in the game as well. So if we are going to see Ada return, we will most likely see Leon return as well. Something else I'd like to mention is Capcom has told us now that they are going to be bringing DLC for Resident Evil 8. So when this DLC is released, maybe we'll learn more information on where Ada is. Or maybe she will even return in the DLC for all we know. Now the final thing I want to bring up is Capcom knows that we want to see the old cast return. So with that being said, I really think this ups the chances of seeing Ada or some of these old members return. Now with that being said, let me know down below if you guys think we will see Ada return or any member of the old cast return in Resident Evil 9. And if you enjoyed this video and love Resident Evil, maybe consider subscribing. That's the only thing that will be on this channel is Resident Evil content. Alright guys, hope to see you on the next one. See you later.